thing that we learned, that we carried everywhere, was a sense of respect for the cultures. And when you have a high respect for culture, it seems like you always have an open invitation to come back and visit.
French artists and the French community has lots of respect for the American music, the country of rock and roll.
So the fact that both her and I embrace different cultures, we're able to maybe look at things differently, a bit like a kaleidoscope. You just, with a slight tilt, you're able to get a completely different picture, but essentially you're looking at the same thing regardless of the shape displayed.
My dad was a fan of Jacques Brel, who's actually from Belgium, but was one of the most important figure of what we call la chanson française. And was very influenced by the way he performed, the way he wrote songs. Singing in French or singing in English and writing in French and writing in English is very different. I would say naturally English is easier because of the musicality of the language itself.
À la merci d'un mot décapant, d'un démenti cinglant, nous voilà sans vêtements. Alors murmure ce que tu ressens, baise les mots et les sentiments, crache le morceau tout doucement, nous voilà nus.
We went to Japan when I was 6. We went to what we call the ex-Yugoslavia now. At the time, in the 80s, with 7 kids, it was quite an adventure to travel. They always managed to bring us with them to discover other cultures, discover other countries. And I'm very grateful for that because it gave me the taste of going beyond my comfort zone a little bit. It opened me to different cultures. I spent a year as a student near London, and it was really a great year for me. It was kind of the end of my first part of studies. And London is a very exciting city, especially when you're students. You have a little bit of time to explore, to have fun.
I met Cecile Hortensia in 2011, I believe. This was to record drums for her what was upcoming album, Papillons, her debut album. I recorded quite a few tracks. It was a great experience. She's really easy to work with in the studio. Really kind person. In some of the tracks she had a pretty specific vision for the mood and the vibe and even what role the drums would play in those songs. And it was easy to kind of communicate and connect on that level of what she wanted. And others, she welcomed my input and let me kind of compose my own drum track. I like to be challenged in different genres, and meeting Cecile just kind of played right into that. A lot of what I do is more rock-oriented, and it was really a joy to record with her, whereas her music is a little gentler, a little more elegant, and so I got to demonstrate more finesse on the drums, so I still enjoy that about her music.
I would characterize Cecile's style as, very interesting and eclectic, and I very much like the acoustic slant that she has on a lot of her arrangements. Having natural, real instruments, not a lot of processing, not a lot of manipulation. Just natural and pure, and I really like that. And also, I really love the bilingual approach to some of her songs, where she's going back and forth French and English. That's very interesting to me as, I guess a wannabe student of the French language.
The first album, I was really a virgin in the studio. So I put myself in a position of trusting Olivier Zam, the producer, and and I gave him some directions about what I wanted, but I was not completely sure, so I really trusted him.
She has a really interesting contrast between the sweetness of her melodies and the melancholic darkness of her lyrics. So there was a clear discernment of different emotions and the complexity and subtext that you could have within her work. So that makes it, as a producer, really interesting to work on, because you have a really wide range of a palette to work with, and that makes it a lot of fun.
I may be lucky, a loser soon after. I'm way too nosy to make my life better, but I'm gonna make it. Anyway, I'm gonna make it.
The Musical Instrument Museum here in Phoenix is the world's largest global instrument museum. We have over 15,000 objects in our collection, and we have exhibits that represent every country in the world. I met Cecile in 2013. We actually used one of her songs as the background music for our promo for Experience France in 2013 and 2014. And when our multimedia manager heard the song, he built the entire promo around that song, and it really captured the kind of feel that we were going for the program.
It's not folk, it's not really pop, it's not jazz, it's not blues. I wouldn't even know if it's a combination of any of those things. I think she's an individual, and this is original music. She's interpreting herself. That's where it's really at. It's okay to hear somebody do an effective cover or even a better version than the original was, but to hear someone doing their original music and being able to communicate, that's what I think music is all about. That's what I think she does most effectively.
I actually like everything in the process of creating music, from my room with my guitar to the studio session where it's all about creativity. And then performing live, which is more like about energy and sharing feelings. I like very much actually to work in the studio, because that's a time where you create the sound you want, you create the arrangements, you refine the song. And so it's all about creativity, and you work with other people. I really like to work in team with other musicians. They bring their talent, they bring their ideas. So I kind of know when I wrote the song what kind of vibe I wanted, and then I allow the musicians to work, to bring their talent, to bring their own creativity.
I first met Cecile over at the open mic night at the Tempe Center for the Arts that I host. Coming over here from France to perform and sing, and I thought that was really nice. It brought fresh air, an international touch to the open mic night. If I was to describe her style, there would be a lot of words that come to mind: poetic, romantic, melodic, expressive, and very positive and sincere.
It's really a conscious effort to deliver something honest and meaningful. This is also something that would be very difficult to get out of a very much younger artist, because they would have no patina and weathering of life experiences to bring to the table. And if you listen to Cecile's work, you will hear that they're not just words, but that they convey, even if it's in sibylline terms, a real life experience behind the message. So she does know what she's talking about, and when she's talking to her audience, there's an inherent truth behind a message, whether it's in English, whether it's in French, or whatever else language that might come into the mix. There's certain honesty that is quite difficult to get now if you turn on the radio.
Cecile is very interesting. I've really enjoyed working on her projects because she has such a different and unique approach to music, and Olivier has such a different and unique approach to sound that's informed by, a lot of music that I haven't listened to. It's always interesting, and I always learn something because the vocabulary that Cecile and Olivier use when they're describing music and musical concepts and emotional concepts in music is very abstract, and it's informed by a different perspective and even a different literary perspective. So I'm always reevaluating my own thoughts on music when I'm learning how they're viewing it, and it makes me a more interesting player. At least I hope so, or at least gives me a different perspective.
I like to write in both languages because I can express differently my feelings. So some feelings I really need French. It comes naturally, it's not a choice at the beginning. I have some words coming in my head, and sometimes it's in English. So I pull the string of the song, and I give birth to the song in English. And sometimes it's an expression in French, it's words in French that just makes me start a song. When you write in English and when you write in French, the process from the beginning is different because you don't write in English the same way you would write in French. In French, you have to be more specific. You have to really make an effort, like literature, not to sound cheesy or not to sound bad. So it's a very demanding language in terms of language.
Prenez à droite, prenez garde sur le passage. Quelques bijoux maladroits, la vie d'ici, restez sauvage, on verra bien. C'est une voix sans fin. La lune s'est retirée, continuez, n'hésitez pas. On écrit déjà la rose et les aiguilles craquent sous le pas de tes parfums.
She takes her art seriously, and I think it's something that's impressive. And a lot of people who want to be artists or want to be songwriters, they can learn a lot from just following her and her process.
When I was a teenager, I started to write more like poems at the beginning, but I was very into music. At the time, I started the guitar a little bit to start to write my first songs. So I would say, yeah, teenage is always very, very special time in a life where you start to you look for yourself and you start to find yourself a little bit. I started really seriously in my late 20s. I met some musicians and really learned how to write a song and work with other musicians, and started really to be more serious and professional about it. Writing a song is a mystery, is a mysterious process because it comes out of nowhere. It comes because you heard a sound, a melody, or you watch a movie and you have like a line that speaks to you. And I surprise myself a lot because I start with almost nothing, just an idea, something like that, and suddenly something, there is something going on, and then a song comes, and usually I have one verse, and the song is already there. I mean, 90% there, a verse, a chorus, and it's almost there. So it's not too long. It's not necessarily too long. Like in an hour, I would say 90% of the job is done, and I never know where I'm going. I'm going there, but I don't know what's going to be the result.
I think that with Cecile, there is that almost lost craft of songwriting that you're still able to identify with today. as opposed to having something that is just a bar of soap that you can dispose when it's used. There's a potential for outlasting the test of time with her work.
She had just moved from France not too long before starting the album and starting to write. And so I think she obviously has an affinity for the Southwest, the natural desert landscape. And it was kind of an opportunity for everybody else involved to kind of rediscover that. You know, when you've lived in any one place for a while, you start to take a few things for granted. And so her kind of fresh eyes for the natural desert and love for it, and relating the differences or similarities to France, I think is lyrically a lot of what that first album is about. And musically, it's rich. I guess I would use that word. You know, each song has a unique feel and vibe.
When someone comes from a different place, they even visit your house or they visit your area, they'll notice things that you probably take for granted. It's really great and fun to know that somebody can come from another country and see something about your own neighborhood, your own landscape, sing about it, and it makes it stand out to you, whereas you would just pass by it, you know, and not even notice it.
I mean, Cactus Road is very poetic for me. For me, it was not the Cactus Road in Scottsdale. It was really more poetic from the beginning, and I didn't know why at the very first time I saw the sign, but I thought it was poetic. So I thought it was a delicious name for a road, and suddenly the meaning came, and the song was born just like that.
All I could picture was a path down which life is going. This is the direction I'm going. This is what inspires me. There's a line in there where she says, "My heart is true, my life is right." I get that, okay? I'm getting the message through her music. I thought that's really ethereal, that's metaphysical.
Hey, song, life is a cactus road. Hey, hey, song, life is a cactus road.
When we look for performers, we're really looking for a high caliber, high quality artist, not someone who performs as a hobby. We're really looking for someone who owns music as an art form. Cecile has played here twice in 2 years consecutively. She was here in 2013 for Experience France and again in 2014, and hopefully we'll bring her back for 2015. Cecile's performances have always been captivating for our audiences. They're drawn to her. So we might start out with an audience of about 100 or 150 people. By the end of her set, it's 300 plus, standing room only. And I just love seeing that kind of reaction with our guests.
You know, there's band leaders that really utilize some of the standard kind of signs or cues for a drummer. Yeah, she doesn't use those. So I have to watch her even more closely for subtle body language and cues that she's not even probably aware of that she's doing. But most of the time when we perform, we're well rehearsed, so there's not a whole lot of guessing as to where we're going from here.
You are inside when you're writing, and then you restitute it. You give it when you perform live. It's really, for me, an important part of being an artist is really to perform live. That's the point, in a way. That's where you want to go. When you write song, you're in the studio, you record, but in the very end, you want to be able to perform in front of people and make them happy.
To watch this lady perform, to see the passion she has for music, and then transform what's going on in her heart, transformed into communication through music, I think that's what it's all about.
I belong with your darkness, you're my best enemy, you're my best enemy, oh.
music, it sounded at the same time very modern and contemporary and accessible, but also kind of had that ethereal, I don't know, just some sort of French quality that we were looking for.
I first have to finish the album. That's the second album, so we are almost there, but not quite yet. So we have to finish recording a few guitars and then mixing, mastering. So probably in spring, it's going to be ready for release. So we're going to do a CD release party here in Phoenix, Arizona. And then I would like, if I can, tour and start probably in California a little bit. So that's the project for the summer.
The quality of her voice, it will take you a place that even if you don't understand the language, you'll feel like you've been lifted and transported somewhere and then brought back. I think that's the main objective of art, performance, and especially music, to transport the listener somewhere.